Hi everyone, this is Justine Collier, the CEO of Rise. It's the 20th of January and this is an update for staff and volunteers about the COVID situation. So as most of you are aware, since the beginning of COVID, we have always followed the government guidelines and requirements. There is almost always some gaps of information or some lack of clarity of information in some areas. So in those cases, we've made the best decision we can at the time with the information available, but always been ready to change our advice as new information comes through, and it will be the same for this time. The list of COVID sites is updated very regularly, and we do ask that if you are going to work or volunteer for Rise that day, that you do check the list of COVID sites, which is either on the WA government website or the Healthy WA website. There are different requirements according to different exposure sites. So some, for example, might be monitor for symptoms only, and others might be isolate immediately and get tested. But we ask if you can look at those, check to see if you've been to those, any of those sites, and then follow the instructions. If you do happen to be unfortunate enough to test positive for COVID, please do immediately let your line manager know, your leadership group member know, and email the COVID-19 inbox, or let the volunteer manager know. And we will help you from there about what you need to do to look after yourself, take the required amount of leave, or in some cases, if you're asymptomatic and wish to, continue to work from home if that's possible. But it will be a case-by-case basis. So although there are currently no restrictions from coming in or working to our offices, and that may come about, we do remind you that you don't have to come into the offices. If it works for you and your line manager currently, it's more than appropriate for you to work from home. So don't feel that you have to come in just because there's no requirement not to. In the eventuality that we may not be able to be working from offices sometime in the future, we are refreshing our approach to making sure that you have a way of identifying what equipment you need to work from home and then supplying it. So that information will be with you shortly about how to go through that process. In terms of personal protective equipment, PPE, please be reassured that once again we are following all the current government requirements about what should be worn, where, when and how, and that we have adequate supply in stock. If you run out, there are processes in place to order new PPE. And if you don't feel that you have the correct training on how to put on the PPE, take it off or dispose of it, please let our learning and development team know and we can arrange for that for you. A reminder about booster vaccination. So clearly everyone who's working with us right now is currently up to date with their with their vaccinations if they are currently working at Rise. And increasingly the eligibility for booster vaccinations will be coming around. So we ask that you do make sure that you get those when eligible and you let our team know as soon as possible once you've got them done so we can register that. A couple of other things, there are increasingly requirements to show both proof of current vaccination and proof of identity at a number of venues. The list does change and update from time to time, so we do ask again that you go onto the government website and check to see what proof you have to show in what format and where. That does change regularly. We will be sharing links, but it's always useful to have a look for yourself. We also know that one of the things we've heard is that with everyone being really very good about wearing masks in the community, in indoor public settings, that there are a number of people with disabilities, sometimes which are not always physically obvious, or with other medical conditions which mean they're exempt from wearing masks. Sometimes that means the community can frown on someone if they believe they should be wearing a mask but are exempt, and it's not always obvious. So we're looking at ways by which we can provide that sort of public signal that you're exempt should you wish to wear that, just to make things more comfortable for you in the community should you want to. So more on that soon. And then finally, we are reintroducing the FAQ sessions for staff and volunteers a couple of times a week where we can share this information, but also because we know at every meeting you have always thought of something that we haven't thought of, got a suggestion, got a concern, and we learn as much from you as we can share. So we really encourage you to take part in those sessions just so we can get through this. We have been through this before, and there is not a better team of people who we can have to do it again. You've all got us through to where we are now, absolutely you're even better prepared than before. So we'll get through this together. Stay safe, and right now stay cool, and more details to follow. Thanks everyone.